Hi, I'm Miles Porter. If you're awake right now, that's all right. Sometimes the mind keeps going even when the body wants to rest. Tonight, we're taking a train ride together. An evening train from the city to a small hometown. The kind of journey people make at Christmas when they're heading back to where they grew up. Back to grandmother's house. If your eyelids are getting heavy already, that's good. The train we're boarding tonight is a real one. It runs most evenings, though it's busier this time of year. People traveling with wrapped packages and extra bags. Children wearing their nice sweaters. The station smells like coffee and cold air and that specific scent of a train platform, which is diesel and metal and distance all mixed together. It's December 23rd. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. The station has tall ceilings, maybe 60 feet high. The waiting area has wooden benches that have been there since the building opened. The benches are dark oak, worn smooth in the middle, where people have sat for many decades. There are Christmas decorations hung from the rafters. Red and green garland, the kind made of plastic but designed to look like pine. Some of the garland has small lights woven through it. White lights, not colored ones. They blink very slowly, maybe once every 3 seconds. That's a good rhythm for blinking lights. Not so fast that they're exciting, just a slow, steady pulse. A woman walks past, carrying a silver suitcase. Her coat is navy blue with large buttons. She's pulling the suitcase behind her, and it makes a sound on the tile floor, a rhythmic clicking from the wheels. Click, 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 click. The departure board above shows train numbers and times. Track 7 for our train, which leaves at 6:15 in the evening. It's 5:50 now. 25 minutes until departure, which is plenty of time. The line to board is forming near the Track 7 gate. Maybe 30 or 40 people. Some are carrying shopping bags from department stores. The bags have Christmas designs printed on them, snowflakes and reindeer. A little boy, probably 5 years old, is wearing a red winter coat with a hood. He's holding his mother's hand and pointing at the ceiling, looking at the decorations. His boots have cartoon characters on them, the kind that light up when you walk. The announcement comes through the speakers, a woman's voice, calm and clear. Now boarding Track 7, that's a nice way to describe it. The line moves forward slowly. Everyone has a ticket either on their phone or printed on paper. The conductor at the gate wears a dark blue uniform. She's been working for the railroad for many years. You can tell by the way she scans tickets without looking down. Her hands know the motion. Thank you. Have a good trip. Merry Christmas. She says this to each person, the same words in the same kind voice, through the gate now, and down the ramp to the platform. The platform is covered but open on the sides. Cold air coming through. The temperature dropped to 34 degrees after the sun went down. That's just above freezing, which means it might snow later but probably won't. The train is waiting on the track. It's a sleeper train, which is a single-level design used on eastern routes. The cars are silver metal on the outside, lit from within by warm yellow light. You can see people already settling into their seats through the windows. A train attendant is standing by the steps. He's wearing the same dark blue uniform. His name tag says Robert. Good evening, welcome aboard. Robert has been working this route for several years. He knows the timing of every stop and the name of every small town the train passes through. He takes the small overnight bag and stores it in the luggage area at the end of the car. You're in roomette C. That's the third door on the right side. The hallway inside the sleeper car is narrow, maybe 2 feet wide. The carpet is dark blue with a pattern of lighter blue triangles. There's a handrail on one side that's been polished by countless hands. The doors to the roomettes are dark wood laminate with silver handles. Each door has a letter, roomette A, B, C. Here we are, roomette C. The door slides open to the right. Inside is a small space, about 7 feet long and maybe 3.5 feet wide, just enough room for everything you need. 2 seats face each other, both upholstered in dark blue fabric. Between them is a window, and the window is bigger than you might expect, about 3 feet wide and 2 feet tall, large enough to see the whole world going by. Each seat is comfortable with enough cushioning to sink into slightly. The fabric has a fine texture, like corduroy but smoother. There's a small table that folds down between the seats made of the same wood laminate as the door. Above each seat is a storage area with a sliding mesh panel for bags or books or whatever you might want during the journey. There's also a small closet to the left of the door, just big enough for a coat. The coat goes in there now. A gray wool coat. It fits perfectly on the single hanger. The overhead light is soft and yellowish, the kind that doesn't wake you up. There's also a reading light above each seat that you can adjust. Right now, just the overhead light is on. The window has a privacy shade that can be pulled down, but for now it stays up. Better to watch the station. Through the glass, you can see the platform, and beyond it, another track with a different train. That train is going somewhere else. Maybe west or north. The seats are positioned so you're looking right out the window while sitting. Someone designed this space understanding that people want to watch the landscape go by. There's a small control panel on the wall near the window 2 buttons for the reading lights, a dial for temperature control, and an outlet for charging a phone. The temperature is set to 68 degrees. That's about right. Not too warm, not too cool. On the small table between the seats is a card with information about the route. It lists all the stops. The journey takes about 2 hours from departure to arrival, long enough to settle in and watch the landscape change, short enough that you won't need to fully recline the seats into beds. The overnight bag sits on one of the seats. It's a canvas bag, dark green, with leather handles that have softened from use. Inside are practical items. A book that probably won't be read, a phone charger, a small bottle of water, a granola bar in case hunger arrives, and wrapped carefully in tissue paper, one ornament, a glass ball red with gold filigree painted on it in delicate swirls. The ornament is from grandmother's collection. She gave it as a gift a few Christmases ago. It's been carefully packed to bring back to hang on her tree. The tissue paper crinkles softly when touched. That's a sound associated with Christmas. Tissue paper crinkling as presents are wrapped or ornaments are unpacked from their boxes. If you're feeling your shoulders relax, that's good. There's a gentle announcement over the speaker system in the roomette. The conductor's voice, the same woman from the platform. Good evening, we'll be departing in approximately 5 minutes. Please ensure all personal items are stored safely. 5 minutes. Just enough time to settle in completely. The seat is surprisingly comfortable. The cushion has just the right amount of firmness. Sitting down facing the window, watching the platform. This is the moment before the journey really begins. The anticipation is pleasant, like standing at the edge of something good. Outside the window, Robert, the attendant, is walking along the platform, checking that all the doors are secure. He waves to another attendant on the next car. They've worked together for years and have developed the kind of shorthand that comes from shared routine. A few last passengers are boarding, moving quickly up the steps. A couple in their 60s, both wearing matching red scarves. They're laughing about something. The man is carrying a bakery box, white cardboard tied with red and white string. Inside are probably cookies or a cake, something baked to bring to relatives. The platform lights cast long shadows. The station's large clock shows 6:14. 1 minute until departure. The anticipation of movement is its own kind of calm. At exactly 6:15, there's a subtle lurch. Not jarring, just a gentle shift forward. The train is moving. It starts so smoothly you might not notice at first. The platform begins to slide past the window very slowly. Walking speed, then a bit faster. People standing on the platform get smaller as the train pulls away. The woman conductor is still there, watching the train depart. She waves a small gesture with her right hand. Then she turns to head back into the station. Her shift continues. There will be other trains tonight. The train picks up speed, gradually, the way good things should begin. No rush, just a steady, inevitable acceleration. Past the end of the platform now, and into the rail yard where other trains are parked. Sleeping trains waiting for their turn. The rail yard has several tracks running parallel, maybe 8 or 10. Some have freight cars attached. Long lines of boxcars painted in different colors: brown, green, faded red. Each car has a number stenciled on the side. Numbers that mean something to someone but are just patterns to everyone else. There's something peaceful about numbers when you don't need to do anything with them. Just numbers existing. Beyond the rail yard, the first buildings of the city appear. The train is moving through an industrial area now. Warehouses made of corrugated metal. Loading docks with trucks backed up to them. A few lights on in the warehouses where people are working the evening shift. One building has a neon sign. The sign is green and pink, which is an unusual combination. It's been there for many years. The owner keeps it lit every night. The train is moving faster now, maybe 25 miles per hour. The buildings slide by at a comfortable pace, fast enough to feel like progress, slow enough to see details. A parking lot with a dozen cars. Street lights beginning to come on as twilight settles. The sky above is that particular blue that happens after sunset. Not quite dark, not quite light, indigo maybe, or periwinkle. Those are both good color words. The train tracks run through the city at ground level here, crossing streets at intervals. Each crossing has gates and flashing red lights. The train approaches a crossing now. The gates are down and cars are waiting. 3 cars on one side, 2 on the other. The drivers sit patiently, watching the train pass. A woman in the first car is checking her phone. A man in a pickup truck is adjusting his rear-view mirror. Normal moments caught briefly as the train slides by. The train whistle sounds. 2 long blasts. That's the pattern at crossings. It's a sound that carries for miles, warning and announcing at the same time. That's a comforting sound, if you let it be. Now the train is entering the city proper. Buildings get taller, 3 stories, 4 stories, 5. These are older buildings, built many decades ago. Brick facades with decorative cornices at the top. Windows in regular patterns. Many of the windows have lights on. You can see into apartments and offices. A kitchen where someone is cooking. The back of a television playing in a living room. An office where someone is still working even though it's past 6 now. And Christmas lights, so many Christmas lights. A storefront on the first floor of a building has white lights outlining the windows. The store sells furniture. You can see a couch and a lamp in the display window. The lights make the display look inviting, like a place you'd want to visit. Another building has multicolored lights strung along the fire's escape. Red, green, blue, yellow. They blink in sequence, creating a pattern that moves up and down the building. Someone spent time setting that up, arranging the lights just right. There's an office building with a large Christmas tree visible through the lobby windows. The tree is at least 15 feet tall, decorated with silver and gold ornaments. It stands in the center of the lobby, which has a marble floor that reflects the tree lights. The train is traveling alongside a street now. Cars are moving in the same direction, heading out of the city for the evening. It's rush hour, though the traffic isn't too heavy. This is a Tuesday before Christmas, and many people have already left for the holidays. A bus stops at a corner. The bus is white with blue stripes. 3 people get off, bundled in winter coats. They walk toward a building with a green awning. The building might be an apartment or maybe a restaurant. It's hard to tell from a moving train. The train begins to curve slightly to the right. Through the window you can see more of the city skyline. Several tall buildings with lights in their windows creating a pattern like a checkerboard. Some windows lit, some dark. The tallest building has a spire at the top that's lit with red and green lights for Christmas. The spire is maybe 50 stories up, pointing at the darkening sky. The train is moving through an area with row houses now. Narrow buildings, 3 stories each, connected in a long line. Each has a small front yard, maybe 6 feet deep, with a fence or small hedge. Some have Christmas decorations. One house has a plastic Santa Claus in the yard, the kind that lights up from inside. Santa is waving, his arm held up in a permanent gesture of greeting. Next to Santa is a plastic snowman, also lit from within. Another house has icicle lights hanging from the roof edge. The lights are white and hang down in uneven lengths, creating the illusion of actual icicles. The effect is quite pretty against the brick. A third house has a wreath on the front door with a red bow. Just the wreath, nothing else. Sometimes simple decorations are the best ones. The train is picking up more speed now, maybe 40 miles per hour. The row houses are passing more quickly, becoming a blur of brick and lights and winter trees. The train is approaching the edge of the city. You can tell because the buildings are getting lower and there's more space between them. 2-story buildings now instead of 3 or 4. Small shops instead of large stores. A diner with a neon sign. The sign is red and blue. Through the windows you can see people sitting at the counter. A waitress in a uniform is pouring coffee. Steam rises from the cup. The sky is darker now. That indigo blue has deepened toward purple. The first stars might be visible if you were outside, away from the city lights. The city is fading behind us now, and the suburbs are beginning. This is the transitional zone where city becomes something else, where the buildings spread out and the yards get bigger. The suburbs at Christmas have their own particular quality. Houses set back from the road, each with enough space to really display decorations. And many people in the suburbs take their Christmas displays seriously. The train is passing through a residential area now, single-family homes, most of them built several decades ago. 2-story colonials and split-level ranches. Each house has a driveway leading to a 2-car garage. The driveways are made of asphalt, some recently sealed so they're very black, others faded to gray. The yards are dormant now in late December. Grass has stopped growing. Trees are bare except for the evergreens. But the decorations make up for the lack of natural color. One house has outlined its entire roof line with white lights. The effect creates a glowing frame against the night sky. The house appears to be floating in a gentle illumination. Another house has a large inflatable snow globe in the front yard. Inside the snow globe are inflatable figures of a family, all waving. The snow globe is about 8 feet tall and lit from inside with swirling white LED lights that simulate falling snow. It's quite an elaborate piece of decoration. Someone researched options, made a purchase, figured out how to inflate it and stake it down properly. That represents effort and planning and a desire to bring joy to passers-by. A third house has taken a more traditional approach. A wreath on the door with a red velvet bow. Candles in each window, the battery-operated kind that turn on automatically at dusk. A small artificial tree in the front yard decorated with red ornaments and white lights. The tree is maybe 6 feet tall. It's not a real tree, but it's a convincing imitation. The branches are evenly distributed and the lights are wrapped carefully around each one. Someone took their time. The train is traveling about 50 miles per hour now. That's a good speed for watching. Fast enough to feel the journey's progress, slow enough to catch details. The train passes a shopping center. It's one of those outdoor malls with stores arranged in a rectangle around a parking lot. The parking lot is about half full. Christmas shopping traffic, though not as busy as it would have been on a weekend. The stores have names you'd recognize. Each storefront has some kind of Christmas decoration. In the parking lot, a man is loading shopping bags into the trunk of his car. He's wearing a puffy jacket and moves with the careful precision of someone who's cold and wants to finish quickly. He closes the trunk, gets in the car, and drives away. A family is walking from the parking lot toward the entrance of the mall. 2 parents and 2 children. The children are holding hands with their parents, one on each side. They're probably going to do some last-minute Christmas shopping, or maybe just a walk around and look at the decorations. The mall's parking lot lights are very bright. They're those orange sodium vapor lights that make everything look slightly unreal. The light has a particular quality, harsh, but also somehow nostalgic. The color of every parking lot from childhood. Past the shopping center now and back into residential areas. More houses, more decorations. The pattern continues. Each house its own small declaration of holiday spirit. It's interesting how decorations vary by personal taste. Some people prefer all white lights. Others use multicolored. Some go for elegance, others for abundance. Both approaches are valid. A house comes into view with what might be the most lights per square foot of any house on the route. Every bush, every tree, every piece of trim is wrapped in lights. The yard has multiple inflatable figures. The roof has reindeer silhouettes. It's a maximalist approach to Christmas decorating. The people who live there probably start planning in October. They probably have a storage system in the garage with boxes labeled by location. Organization required to create that level of display. Next to that house is a house with no visible decorations at all. Just a regular suburban house in winter darkness. That's fine too. Not everyone celebrates the same way. Maybe the people inside are celebrating privately, or maybe they're traveling elsewhere for the holiday, or maybe they just prefer a quiet December. There are lots of ways to be. The train passes a small park. You can see swings and a slide, dark shapes against the lighter grass. The park is empty now, too cold and too late for children to be playing. But in the daytime, especially during school vacation, it probably fills with families. Past the park is a church. You can tell it's a church by the shape and by the cross on top of the steeple. The church is made of light-colored brick. The steeple is lit with floodlights from below, making it glow against the dark sky. The church's lawn has a nativity scene. The figures are life-sized. Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus in the manger, 3 wise men standing to the side, a shepherd with a sheep. The scene is lit with subtle spotlights. The figures in this nativity look peaceful, Their faces are painted with serene expressions. Mary is looking down at the baby. Joseph has his hand raised in a gesture that might be protection or blessing. It's a scene that's been depicted millions of times in thousands of ways. And still people find it meaningful. The suburbs are starting to thin out now. The houses are becoming more spread out. Instead of being 40 feet apart, they're 100 feet apart. The lots are bigger. More trees between houses. The train is entering the transitional zone between suburb and rural area. This is where the development ends and the farmland begins. You can tell by the increase in open space. Through the window, the landscape is mostly dark now, but occasionally a house appears, its windows glowing warm yellow against the cold night. Each lit window is a small beacon of warmth and safety. One farmhouse has Christmas lights strung along the porch railing, just a single strand of white lights, but they're enough. The house sits far back from the road, maybe 200 feet. There's a long driveway leading to it. Near the house is a barn. The barn is dark except for a single light over the door. That light is probably left on all night. Farmers often leave a barn light on. It helps with checking on animals or finding your way if you need something in the middle of the night. The sky is fully dark now. If you're in the roomette with the overhead light on, you can see your reflection in the window. The glass becomes a mirror. But if you turn off the overhead light and leave just the small reading light on, or even turn that off too, you can see through the glass much better. Let's turn off the overhead light. Click. Now the world outside becomes clearer. The darkness outside and the darkness inside meet at the window, and the glass becomes transparent again. You can see more now. The shape of the land, the silhouettes of trees, the distant glow of towns the train doesn't stop at. The train maintains its steady pace. The sound of the wheels on the rails has become a constant rhythm. Clickety-clack is how people describe it, though the actual sound is more complex. It's a layered sound with bass notes from the weight of the train and higher notes from the joints in the rails. But clickety-clack works as a description. That rhythm is hypnotic if you let it be. Sitting in the gentle darkness of the roomette, watching the landscape slide by, it's easy to let the mind drift to other Christmases. The ones from childhood when you were traveling this route in the opposite direction. When grandmother lived in the city and you lived in a small town, the ornament wrapped in tissue paper in the overnight bag is a trigger for these memories. Just knowing it's there, carefully packed, brings back the sensation of unwrapping ornaments from grandmother's collection each Christmas Eve. Grandmother kept her ornaments in boxes in the closet, red cardboard boxes with lids that fit snugly. Each ornament was wrapped individually in white tissue paper. The tissue paper was saved from year to year, the same sheets used over and over, developing wrinkles and soft spots from repeated folding. The process of unpacking the ornaments was a ritual. It happened on Christmas Eve afternoon, after lunch but before dinner. The boxes would come down from the closet, one at a time. Usually 4 boxes total. The first box would be opened on the living room floor, sitting cross-legged on the carpet, which was burgundy with a floral pattern. The carpet was thick enough to be comfortable, but thin enough that you could feel the hardwood underneath. Reaching into the box and taking out the first wrapped ornament, the tissue paper would crinkle softly. That sound. Then the careful unwrapping, folding back the layers of white paper. The first ornament might be a silver ball with glitter embedded in the surface, or a red glass bell with a small clapper inside that made a gentle tinkling sound when shaken, or a wooden angel with painted features. Each ornament was different. Some were old, from grandmother's childhood in the 1940s. Some were newer, acquired over the years. Each had a story, though you didn't always hear the stories. Sometimes an ornament was just an ornament, beautiful in itself, needing no explanation. One ornament that stood out was a glass bird, a cardinal red with black markings, perched on a clip that attached to the tree branches. The bird was about 3 inches long and made of thin glass that caught the light. When it hung on the tree, it looked almost alive. That cardinal ornament had belonged to grandmother's mother. It was from the 1930s, purchased at a store that no longer existed in a city where grandmother no longer lived. But the ornament remained, passed down, carefully packed each year. Another memorable ornament was a small wooden train. The train was painted red and green with gold trim. It had wheels that actually turned and a string attached to the top for hanging. The train was maybe 2 inches long, carved from a single piece of wood. Grandmother said it came from a Christmas market in Germany, brought back by a friend who traveled there many years ago. The friend had passed away, but the ornament remained. That's one of the quiet purposes of ornaments. They hold memories even when the people who gave them are gone. The process of unwrapping would continue. Each ornament would be removed from the tissue paper, examined, and placed carefully on the coffee table. The coffee table would gradually fill with ornaments, creating a small display of glass and wood and metal. When all the ornaments were unpacked, the tree decorating would begin. The tree was always real, never artificial. Grandmother preferred certain types because of the needle retention and the shape of the branches. The tree would have been purchased a week earlier and set up in its stand in the corner of the living room. The tree stand was red metal, the kind that holds water. The tree would drink about 1 quart of water a day. when it was fresh. Grandmother checked the water level every morning. Before the ornaments went on, the lights had to be strung. This was a task that required patience. The lights were the old-fashioned kind, incandescent bulbs in multiple colors. The strands were 25 feet long, and usually 3 or 4 strands were needed for the tree. The technique was to start at the bottom and work in a spiral to the top, weaving the strand through the branches so the cord was hidden and only the lights showed. It took maybe 20 minutes to do properly. Then came the ornaments. Grandmother had a specific method. The larger, heavier ornaments went on the interior branches close to the trunk. The smaller, lighter ornaments went on the outer branches. This created balance and prevented the branch tips from drooping. The placement was intuitive more than planned. Grandmother would pick up an ornament, consider it for a moment, then hang it on what felt like the right branch. Sometimes she'd move it to a different branch. Sometimes she'd step back to look at the overall effect, then adjust. There was no rushing. The tree decorating took as long as it took. Maybe an hour, maybe more. And you would help, of course. Handed an ornament to hang. "This one goes here," Grandmother would say, pointing to a particular branch. Or sometimes you decide where this one should go. The freedom to choose was meaningful. It meant being trusted to contribute to something important. One year, you hung the cardinal too far out on a branch, and the branch bent down too far. Grandmother gently suggested moving it closer to the trunk. "Birds like to be near the center," she said. "That's where they feel safest." Whether that was true about real birds or just a gentle correction didn't matter. The bird was moved, the branch straightened, and the tree looked better. The room would fill with the scent of pine, real pine scent, not artificial. It's a clean smell, slightly sweet with a hint of sap and earth. That scent became synonymous with Christmas. As the tree filled with ornaments, it transformed. What started as a plain pine tree became a luminous presence in the room. The lights reflected off the glass ornaments, creating points of brightness. The colored bulbs, red, green, blue, yellow, cast colored shadows on the wall. When the last ornament was hung, Grandmother would plug in the lights. The room would fill with a soft, warm glow. The tree would stand there, complete, a small, perfect thing created together. There, Grandmother would say, "Now it's Christmas," and it would feel true. The memory of that feeling is still accessible now, all these years later. Sitting in a train roomette, watching the dark landscape go by, you can still feel the satisfaction of a tree decorated well. The sense of something being just right.
The train has left the suburbs completely now and entered true countryside. The landscape has opened up. Instead of houses every 100 feet, there's open land for miles at a stretch. The fields are dark at night, but you can sense their presence, the absence of trees, the flatness extending into the distance. These are probably agricultural fields, dormant now in winter. Corn or soybeans, grown in the summer, harvested in the fall, now resting. There hasn't been much snow this year, maybe 2 inches total, not enough for good sledding or snowmen, but enough to dust the fields white in patches. The moon is rising in the east. It's 2 days past full, which means it's still quite bright enough to illuminate the landscape in silver tones. The moonlight makes it possible to see more details, even though the sun has been down for over an hour. In the moonlight, you can see fence lines. The fences mark property boundaries or separate fields. Some fences are wooden post and rail. Others are wire strung between metal posts. The posts stand at regular intervals, maybe 20 feet apart, creating a rhythm across the land. A farmhouse appears in the distance. It's set back from the railroad tracks, maybe a quarter mile away. The house has lights on, warm yellow rectangles in the darkness. Probably the kitchen and living room. Smoke rises from the chimney. You can see it as a darker column against the night sky, moving slightly in the wind. The smoke means someone is using the fireplace or wood stove. That's common in rural areas where heating with wood supplements or replaces central heating. Burning wood creates a particular kind of heat. It's a radiant heat that feels different from forced air. More direct, more comforting somehow. Near the farmhouse is a larger building, probably a barn. The barn is dark, except for that single light over the door, the same pattern as before. Farmers are consistent about barn lights. The train passes the farm and continues into open land again. The tracks run straight here, following the most direct route east. Railroad engineers in the 19th century planned these routes carefully, choosing grades that weren't too steep and curves that weren't too sharp. Many rail lines were built in the 1870s. That was more than 150 years ago. The same basic routes have been used all that time, though the tracks have been replaced and improved many times. It's interesting to think about the number of trains that have traveled these routes. Millions of tons of freight, hundreds of thousands of passengers, all following the same path through the countryside. A small stream appears alongside the tracks. You can see it as a dark line in the moonlight, occasionally reflecting silver where the moon hits the water. The stream is maybe 10 feet wide, probably shallow this time of year. In the spring, when snow melts and rain is heavier, the stream will rise. It might flood the low-lying areas nearby, but in December, it's docile, flowing quietly toward whatever river it feeds into. The stream parallels the tracks for maybe a mile, then curves away toward the north. The land rises slightly there, a gentle hill maybe 30 feet high. On top of the hill is a stand of trees, dark silhouettes against the slightly lighter sky. Those trees are probably oaks or maples, deciduous trees that lose their leaves in winter. In summer, they'd be full and green, creating shade. Now they're bare, their branch patterns visible against the sky like delicate tracery. The rhythm of the train continues. The sound has become almost subliminal now. You're aware of it, but not actively listening to it. It's become part of the environment, like the hum of a refrigerator or the white noise of a fan. That's when sound becomes most effective at promoting relaxation, when it's present but not demanding attention. Another farmhouse appears, this one closer to the tracks, maybe 200 feet away. The house is 2 stories, white siding, black shutters. A porch wraps around the front and side. On the porch are 2 rocking chairs, motionless now in the cold. The house has Christmas decorations, a wreath on the front door with a red bow, white lights along the porch railing. In one of the upstairs windows, you can see a small Christmas tree also lit with white lights. That's probably a child's room. The tree is small enough to sit on a dresser or table. Children often want their own Christmas tree in their room. A smaller version of the family tree downstairs. The house slides past and is gone. The landscape returns to fields and occasional clumps of trees. The moon continues to rise, getting higher in the skies. As it rises, the angle of the moonlight changes, creating different shadows. A fence post that was dark before now casts a long shadow across the snow. Shadows in moonlight are softer than shadows in sunlight. Less defined at the edges, they have a quality that's dreamlike. If your breathing has become slower and deeper, that's natural. In the distance, you can see the lights of a small town. Not your destination yet. Different town, one the train doesn't stop at. The lights are clustered together in a group maybe a mile wide. That's typical for small rural towns. A compact center with houses and businesses, then open land beyond. The train passes the town on the south side, close enough to see individual buildings. A church steeple with a lit cross on top, a 2-story brick building that might be a school or town hall, a gas station with bright fluorescent lights, still open even though it's past 7 now. One person is at the gas station filling up a pickup truck. The person is wearing a heavy coat and moves with the hunched posture of someone who's cold and wants to finish quickly. Then the town is passed and the landscape opens up again. More fields, more fence lines, more occasional farmhouses with their warm windows. The quality of the light from those farmhouse windows is worth noting. It's a warm yellow, usually from incandescent bulbs, or sometimes the slightly different yellow of LED bulbs set to warm temperature. That warm light creates a sense of safety and comfort. There's something deeply reassuring about seeing a lit window in a dark landscape. It means people are there. Life is happening. Someone is making dinner or watching television or reading a book. Normal domestic activities continuing regardless of the larger darkness outside. The train enters a wooded area. Trees close on both sides of the tracks. These are mixed woods, deciduous and evergreen together. The deciduous trees are bare, the evergreens still full. In the moonlight filtering through the branches, you can see the texture of the bark on the trees, rough and dark. Some trees have moss growing on the north side, which is a real phenomenon. Moss grows on the shadier side of trees, which in the northern hemisphere is usually north. The woods continue for maybe 2 miles. Then the train emerges back into open land. This transition from woods to field to woods again creates a rhythm in the landscape. A rhythm that matches the rhythm of the train. Everything is rhythm when you pay attention. The gentle sway of the train and the passing landscape create a perfect environment for memory. Sitting in the darkened roomette, warm and safe, watching the moonlit fields slide by, it's natural for the mind to drift back to grandmother's kitchen. The kitchen was the heart of her house, especially at Christmas. That's where the baking happened. So much baking. Grandmother believed in making everything from scratch. Store-bought cookies and cakes existed, but they were never quite right. You can taste the difference, she would say. And she was correct. Homemade baking has a quality that commercial baking can't replicate. The baking would begin in early December and continue right through Christmas Day. Different items on different days, following a schedule that grandmother kept in her head. Monday might be sugar cookies. Wednesday, gingerbread. Friday, dinner rolls for Christmas Eve. The kitchen itself was medium-sized, maybe 12 feet by 14 feet. The counters were pale yellow laminate with small gold flecks. The cabinets were painted white. The floor was linoleum with a pattern that looked like small tiles, though it was actually one continuous sheet. There was a window over the sink that looked out onto the backyard. During the day, light would stream in through that window. In the evening, you could see your reflection in the dark glass. The stove was electric, white, with 4 burners and an oven below. The oven had a window in the door so you could check on baking without opening it. That window was crucial. Opening the oven door too often could affect the temperature and the way things baked. Grandmother's technique was to set a timer and trust the process. Check through the window. Only open the door when the timer went off. The first scent of Christmas baking was usually vanilla, pure vanilla extract. The real kind made from vanilla beans, not imitation. The bottle was brown glass with a black cap. When you unscrewed the cap, the vanilla scent would escape, sweet and complex. Vanilla has over 200 flavor compounds. That's why it smells so rich, and why real vanilla tastes different from imitation vanilla. Those compounds create depth. Grandmother would add vanilla to almost everything. Sugar cookies, pound cake, buttercream frosting. Usually 1 teaspoon, sometimes 2. She'd measure it carefully in a metal measuring spoon, a teaspoon that had been part of her measuring spoon set for many years. The measuring spoons hung on a small hook near the stove. They were stainless steel, connected by a ring. 1/4 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, 1 tablespoon. The perfect set. After vanilla came butter. Unsalted butter, always. You want to control the salt yourself? Grandmother would say. The butter came in 1-pound boxes, 4 sticks, wrapped in paper. The butter needed to be at room temperature for most recipes. That meant taking it out of the refrigerator an hour before baking. Soft buttercream's better with sugar. It creates a lighter texture. The sound of butter and sugar being creamed together in the stand mixer was a sound of home. The mixer would start on low speed, the butter and sugar tumbling together. Then the speed would increase, and the mixture would become pale and fluffy, incorporating air. That air is important. It creates lift in the final product. The mixer was heavy and solid. It sat on the counter in the corner, a permanent fixture. The mixing bowl was stainless steel and could hold up to 5 quarts. The paddle attachment was used for most cookie doughs. The whisk attachment for whipping cream or egg whites. Grandmother had owned that mixer for 30 years. It still worked perfectly because she maintained it properly, wiped it down after each use, never immersed the motor in water, stored it with care. Quality tools, properly maintained, last a lifetime. After butter and vanilla came cinnamon. Ground cinnamon, which grandmother bought in small tins from the spice aisle. The cinnamon was reddish brown and fine textured. When you opened the tin, the scent was immediate and warm. Cinnamon comes from the inner bark of trees. The bark is dried and ground into powder. The scent of cinnamon is warming. It contains compounds like cinnamaldehyde that activate warmth receptors. That's why cinnamon can make you feel warmer, even though it doesn't actually raise your body temperature. Grandmother used cinnamon in several recipes. Snickerdoodles, which are sugar cookies rolled in cinnamon sugar before baking. Cinnamon rolls, which are a yeast dough filled with cinnamon, sugar, and butter, then rolled up and sliced. And gingerbread, which uses cinnamon, along with ginger and cloves. The gingerbread was particularly aromatic. The combination of spices, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg created a scent that filled the entire house. You could smell it from the front porch. The gingerbread dough would be rolled out on the countertop, which was lightly floured to prevent sticking. The rolling pin was wooden, worn smooth from decades of use. It had belonged to grandmother's mother and probably to her mother before that. Rolling pin movement should be firm, but not aggressive. Push forward, lift, return, push forward again. The dough should be about 1/4 inch thick for gingerbread cookies. Thinner than that and they burn easily. Thicker and they don't crisp properly. Cookie cutters would come out then. Metal cookie cutters in various shapes. Stars, trees, bells, gingerbread men. Each cutter would be pressed into the dough, cutting out a shape. The excess dough would be gathered, re-rolled, and cut again. The cut cookies would be transferred to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Parchment paper prevents sticking better than greasing the pan. It also makes cleanup easier. The cookies would bake at 350 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. The kitchen would fill with the scent of gingerbread. That spicy, warm, slightly sweet aroma that is one of the defining scents of Christmas. When the cookies came out of the oven, they'd be dark brown around the edges and slightly puffed. They'd cool on the baking sheet for 2 minutes, then be transferred to a wire cooling rack. The cooling rack allowed air to circulate around the cookies, which prevented them from getting soggy on the bottom. Grandmother had 3 wire cooling racks, and all 3 would be in use during heavy baking days. Once the cookies were cool, some would be decorated. White icing for the gingerbread men, white icing for details, buttons, eyes, a smiling mouth. The icing would be in a small bowl with a thin spatula, or sometimes a plastic bag with the corner cut off for piping. Decorating cookies was meditative work, slow and careful. Each cookie was individual. Some turned out better than others. That was acceptable. The imperfect ones tasted just as good. The sugar cookies followed a similar process, but with different results. Sugar cookie dough is softer than gingerbread dough. It contains more butter and less spice. The flavor is simpler, primarily butter, sugar, and vanilla. Sugar cookies would be rolled thinner, about 1/8 of an inch. They'd be cut into shapes and baked at 350 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes. They'd come out pale golden, very delicate. When cool, they'd be frosted with buttercream. Buttercream is butter, powdered sugar, vanilla, and a small amount of milk or cream. It's beaten until fluffy and spreadable. Grandmother made buttercream in different colors: red, green, white. Food coloring from small bottles. 1 or 2 drops would tint a whole batch. The colors were pastel, not vivid. Gentle colors that matched the gentle sweetness of the cookies. The frosted cookies would be arranged on plates and covered with plastic wrap. Some would be eaten at home. Others would be packaged in tins to give as gifts. Neighbors, friends, the mail carrier, everyone got cookies at Christmas. And through all of this, the kitchen smelled amazing. Butter, vanilla, cinnamon, sugar. The scents layered on each other, creating an olfactory environment that was pure comfort. Those scents are accessible even now through memory. Sitting in the train, you can almost smell them, almost feel the warmth of the kitchen, the steam on the windows from all the oven use. The satisfaction of creating something good with your hands. If your eyes are feeling heavy, that's perfectly fine. The train is slowing slightly, not stopping, but reducing speed. That usually means the train is approaching a town. Through the window, lights appear in the
Distance. More than a farmhouse, fewer than a city, a small town. The first buildings come into view, houses at the edge of town, spreading out along the road that parallels the tracks. These are modest homes, 1-story ranches and small 2-story colonials. Each has a small yard, a driveway, a mailbox at the street. Many have Christmas decorations. The decorations in small-town America often favor tradition. Wreaths on doors, lights along roof lines, maybe a decorated tree visible through a front window. One house has a nativity scene in the front yard, the figures arranged carefully. Another has an inflatable snowman, though not as elaborate as the ones in the suburbs. This snowman is smaller, simpler. It waves one mitten-covered hand. The train passes a grade crossing. The gates are down, bells ringing, lights flashing. 2 cars wait on one side. The drivers are patient. They know the train will pass quickly. Now the train is entering the town proper. The main street runs parallel to the tracks for about half a mile. You can see the storefronts, a hardware store, a cafe, a pharmacy. The buildings are 2 stories, built many decades ago. Brick facades with large windows on the ground floor. The stores are closed now. It's after 7, but the windows are lit. The hardware store window has a display of snow shovels and ice melt. The cafe window shows tables and chairs arranged inside, empty but waiting for tomorrow's breakfast customers. The pharmacy has a neon closed sign in the window, but you can still see inside to the aisles of products and the prescription counter in the back. Above the stores are apartments. Lights are on in several windows. People live above their town's main street. That's increasingly rare in modern America, but some small towns maintain this pattern. The town is decorated for Christmas. Garland is strung from light post to light post along the main street. Each light post also has a wreath attached halfway up. The wreaths have red bows. In the center of town is a small square with a bandstand. The bandstand is white painted wood with a peaked roof. It's the kind where the town band plays on summer evenings and the 4th of July. Now in December, the bandstand has a Christmas tree next to it. The tree is maybe 20 feet tall, decorated with lights and large ornaments. The tree is the community tree, chosen and decorated by volunteers. The town square has benches arranged in a circle around the bandstand. The benches are empty tonight, too cold for sitting outside. But in warmer months, these benches would be gathering places for people waiting for the bus or meeting friends or just taking a break from errands. Past the town square, the residential section continues for another quarter mile. More houses, more decorations. Then the houses spread out, the spaces between them increasing, and the town ends. The train picks up speed again, returning to its cruising pace. The landscape returns to open fields and then
occasional wooded areas. A pattern repeats. Small towns appearing, passing, disappearing. Each slightly different in details, but similar in structure and spirit. These towns represent a particular kind of American place. Not urban, not quite rural. In between, they have their own rhythms, their own identities. They're places where people know their neighbors and the local businesses are owned by people who live there. In the modern economy, these towns face challenges. Young people often leave for cities with more opportunities. But the towns persist, adapted, continuing. And at Christmas they shine. The decorations are evidence of community pride and continuity. Evidence that people care about where they live and want to make it special. The train continues east. The landscape is familiar now, even in the dark. The journey is getting closer to its end, probably about 20 minutes away. As the train moves through the darkness, bringing us closer to grandmother's house, memory shifts to another central element of Christmas there, the dinner on Christmas Eve. Grandmother's Christmas Eve dinner was always the same. The menu hadn't changed in 40 years. Some people might find that boring, but there's something deeply comforting about culinary tradition. You know what to expect. You look forward to specific dishes. The dinner would be served at 6, not 5:45, not 6:15, 6 o'clock. Grandmother believed in punctuality for meals. The food is ready when it's ready, she'd say. It's best when it's hot. The table would be set by 5:30. The good china would come out from the cabinet in the dining room. White plates with a delicate gold rim. The plates were thin, almost translucent, when held up to light. They'd been a wedding gift to grandmother many years ago. The china was handled carefully, washed by hand, never in the dishwasher, dried with a soft towel, and put away in felt-lined dividers that protected each plate. Along with the china came the good silverware. Actually, silver plate, not solid silver, but still nice. The pattern was called Remembrance and featured delicate floral engraving on the handles. There were dinner forks, salad forks, dinner knives, soup spoons, and teaspoons. The silverware had to be polished before Christmas. That happened in early December. Each piece would be rubbed with silver polish, then buffed with a soft cloth. The tarnish would come off, revealing the bright shine underneath. Polishing silver is meditative work. Repetitive, rhythmic, satisfying. You can see the results immediately. The table itself was dark wood with 6 chairs around it. A tablecloth would go on first. White linen pressed smooth. The cloth had been embroidered by grandmother's mother with a pattern of holly, leaves, and berries in the corners. The embroidery was done in green and red thread, each stitch tiny and precise. The plates would be set at each place, centered. Then the silverware, arranged according to formal dining rules, forks on the left, knife and spoon on the right, napkins folded into triangles and placed on the plates. Water glasses would be set above the knives. They were cut with a diamond pattern. They were heavy and felt substantial in the hand. In the center of the table would be a centerpiece, usually a low arrangement of evergreen branches, holly, and candles. The candles were red, held in silver candlesticks. They'd be lit just before everyone sat down to eat. Candlelight makes everything gentler. It softens faces and creates an atmosphere of warmth and intimacy. The menu for Christmas Eve was traditional and unchanging. It started with soup, cream of mushroom made from scratch, not from a can. The soup began with fresh mushrooms, sliced thin. The mushrooms would be sautéed in butter until they released their moisture and browned slightly. Then flour would be added to make a roux. Stock would go in gradually, stirred constantly to avoid lumps. Finally, cream would be added, turning the soup rich and silky. The soup would be served in small bowls, white china matching the dinner plates. Sprinkle of fresh parsley on top for color. Soup is an ideal first course. It warms you from the inside. It prepares your palate for what's coming next. After soup came the main course. Ham. A bone-in ham, glazed with brown sugar. The ham would bake for about 3 hours. The glaze would caramelize, creating a sweet and slightly crispy exterior. The meat inside would be tender and salty. Ham is traditional Christmas food in many families. It's festive but not as overwhelming as turkey. It slices easily and tastes good, warm or cold. Alongside the ham were side dishes, mashed potatoes made with butter and cream and whipped until fluffy, green beans cooked with butter and almonds, dinner rolls, yeast rolls that grandmother made from scratch earlier in the day. The rolls were particularly good. They were soft and slightly sweet, brushed with melted butter right when they came out of the oven. You'd break one open and watch the steam rise. There would also be cranberry sauce, the homemade kind, made from fresh cranberries cooked with sugar and orange zest, not the canned, jellied kind. The fresh cranberry sauce had whole berries in it and tasted tart and sweet at the same time. And sweet potato casserole, mashed sweet potatoes mixed with butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon, topped with a pecan streusel. This would bake until the topping was crispy and the sweet potatoes were heated through. The table would be crowded with serving dishes. Everything would be passed around family style. You'd serve yourself, taking portions of what you wanted. There was never any pressure to eat everything or clean your plate. Take what you want, grandmother would say. There's plenty. And there was always plenty. Grandmother believed in abundance. Better too much than too little. The dinner would last about an hour. People would eat slowly, talking between bites. Conversation would range over various topics. What people were doing for work, local news, family updates about relatives who weren't present. The tone would be warm and easy. No arguments at grandmother's table. That was an unspoken rule.
Christmas Eve was for peace and goodwill. After the main course came dessert, multiple options because grandmother couldn't choose just one. There would be pie, apple pie or pumpkin pie, sometimes both. The pies would be served with whipped cream, freshly whipped that afternoon. The cream would be slightly sweet and soft enough to dollop. There would also be Christmas cookies arranged on a platter, the sugar cookies and gingerbread from the baking sessions, maybe some chocolate chip cookies too, because those were universally liked. And often there would be a special dessert, something grandmother tried from a magazine or cookbook. The special dessert was always good, but it couldn't replace the traditional pies and cookies. Those were essential. Coffee would be served with dessert. Regular coffee in the good coffee cups, also china with gold rims. Cream and sugar available for those who wanted it. Grandmother drank her coffee black. "You can taste it better that way," she'd say. She was probably right, but not everyone wants to taste coffee that directly. After dessert, everyone would help clear the table. The dishes would be carried to the kitchen and rinsed. The leftover food would be wrapped and put in the refrigerator. The tablecloth would be carefully folded, checking for stains. Usually there weren't stains. Grandmother's family was careful with the good linens. The kitchen cleanup would take maybe 20 minutes, then everyone would move to the living room where the Christmas tree glowed and the fireplace might have a fire burning. This was the time for sitting together, talking, maybe playing a board game, or just enjoying the decorated room. The fullness of a good meal would make everyone relaxed and content. That content is one of the gifts of traditional meals. They create not just satisfaction, but a sense of connection and continuity. You're participating in something larger than one evening. You're part of a tradition that extends backward in time and will extend forward. Sitting in the train now, you can almost taste those meals. The richness of the soup, the sweetness of the glazed ham, the flaky crust of the apple pie. Memory is powerful in its ability to recreate sensory experiences. The train is slowing, not dramatically, but noticeably. That means the train is approaching a town. And given the time, it's probably your destination. Looking out the window, you can see lights gathering in the distance, more than the small towns the train passed earlier. This is familiar. This is home. The first buildings appear. A gas station on the edge of town, lit bright against the darkness. Next to it are some familiar stores. These are the modern markers of a town's boundary. But past the commercial strip, the older part of town begins. This is the town you remember. 2-story houses with front porches, mature trees lining the streets,
sidewalks that buckle slightly from tree roots growing underneath. The Christmas decorations here are personal and varied. Every house has its own interpretation. Some have gone elaborate with light displays. Others have simple wreaths and candles in the windows. You know these houses. You grew up seeing them. That blue house with the wraparound porch. The brick house with the green shutters. The yellow house. The familiarity is profound. Even in darkness, even from a train window, you recognize the shapes and patterns of home. The train passes the elementary school. It's a single-story brick building with a flat roof, windows. The playground is behind it, invisible in the dark, but you know it's there. You spent countless hours on that playground. Next to the school is the public library. Carnegie Library, built in 1912 with a grant from Andrew Carnegie. It's a small, beautiful building with columns and a peaked roof. The library was always a refuge, a quiet place to read and think. The train continues toward the center of town. Main Street runs perpendicular to the tracks. You can see down Main Street from the train window. The storefronts are decorated for Christmas. Garland, lights, the same pattern seen in the other small towns, but more meaningful because this is your town. The train slows further. The train is approaching the station. The town's train station is a small building made of red brick. It was built in the late 1800s when the railroad was new and train travel was the primary way to get anywhere. The building has been maintained over the years. It's now on the National Register of Historic Places. The platform is lit with old-fashioned light fixtures that were retrofitted with modern bulbs. The lights cast a warm yellow glow. There are people waiting on the platform. Maybe 5 or 6. Some are there to board the train for the next leg of its journey. Others are waiting to meet arriving passengers. And there, near the middle of the platform, is grandmother. You can see her even from inside the train. She's wearing a long winter coat, dark blue or possibly black. A scarf is wrapped around her neck. She's standing patiently, hands in her pockets, watching the train approach. She's in her 80s now, still steady on her feet, still independent, still living in the house where she raised her children and welcomed her grandchildren. The train comes to a complete stop with a gentle hiss of brakes. The movement ceases. The constant rhythm of wheels on rails ends. For a moment, there's just stillness. Then the conductor's voice comes over the speaker. This is your stop. Time to gather the overnight bag. Turn on the overhead light briefly to make sure nothing is left behind. The canvas bag, the book, the phone, the charging cord. The ornament wrapped
in tissue paper is still safe in the bag. You can feel it through the fabric. That will go on grandmother's tree tonight or tomorrow morning. The door to the roomette slides open. The hallway is quiet. Other passengers are either continuing on or gathering their own belongings. Down the hallway to the exit. Robert, the attendant, is there ready to help people disembark. Watch your step. Have a wonderful visit. Down the metal steps to the platform. The cold air hits immediately. It's probably 28 degrees now, cold enough to see your breath. And there's grandmother walking toward you with a smile. Her face is lined, but her eyes are bright. She reaches out for a hug. You made it. I'm so glad you're here. The hug is warm and familiar. She smells like her house, like soap, and a hint of the cookies that were probably baked today. How was the train ride? She asks. It was good, peaceful. I watched the countryside go by. That's nice. Come on, the car's just over here. Grandmother's car's parked in the small lot next to the station. It's a sedan, maybe 15 years old, well maintained. The kind of car that will last forever if you change the oil regularly and don't drive it too hard. The overnight bag goes in the trunk. Then both of you get in the car. Grandmother starts the engine and turns on the heat. The car begins to warm up. The drive to her house is short, maybe 5 minutes. Down Main Street, then a turn, then 3 blocks to her address. The house is a 2-story colonial with white siding and black shutters. The porch light is on. There are Christmas lights along the roof line, white lights that glow gently. In the front window you can see the Christmas tree. It's already decorated, glowing with colored lights and ornaments. Home. Grandmother pulls into the driveway and turns off the engine. You both get out. The overnight bag comes out of the trunk. Let's get inside where it's warm. I made hot chocolate if you want some. Hot chocolate sounds perfect. Inside, the house is exactly as remembered. The living room with the Christmas tree, the familiar furniture, the photographs on the walls, the scent of pine and cinnamon. Everything is right. Grandmother takes your coat and hangs it in the closet. You set the overnight bag down. Let me show you something, you say. You open the bag carefully and take out the tissue-wrapped ornament. Unwrap it slowly. The red glass ball with gold filigree appears. I brought this back to hang on your tree. Grandmother's face softens. Oh, that's lovely, thank you. She takes the ornament gently, examining it. Then she walks to the tree
and finds the perfect branch, hangs the ornament carefully. There. Now the tree is complete. You stand together, looking at the tree. The lights reflect off the ornaments, creating points of brightness throughout the room. This is Christmas. This moment of quiet, standing together. This feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be. If you're ready to sleep now,
That's perfect. The guest room is upstairs, second door on the right. The bed is already made with clean sheets and a thick quilt. The room is cool, but the quilt is warm.
grandmother says good night at the bottom of the stairs. Sleep well. We'll have a nice day tomorrow. Up the stairs, into the guest room. The room is small and cozy. The bed looks inviting. Change into sleep clothes. Pull back the quilt and slip under. The sheets are cool at first, but warm quickly. Lying in the darkness, you can hear the house settling. The small creaks and sounds of an old house at night. Familiar sounds, safe sounds. Outside, it might be snowing now. Small flakes drifting down, covering the town in white. But inside, everything is warm. The train journey is complete. The distance is crossed. You're here. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. There will be cookie decorating and tree gazing and conversation. There will be the dinner with its traditional dishes. There will be laughter and warmth and all the small rituals of the holiday. But right now there's just this, the quiet darkness of a bedroom in grandmother's house, the weight of the quilt, the softness of the pillow. Your breathing has slowed, deep and regular. The journey is over. Sleep is here. Rest well. You're safe. You're home. Good night.